The scream echoed through the forest, sharp and inhuman, freezing me in place. It came from something I couldn't fully see yet, a shape flickering with bright, unnatural light, stepping closer with slow, deliberate movements. My dog, Tono, growled low in his throat, his body trembling. I should have turned back long before, but hunger had led me here. Now, it was too late. I knew something was wrong when I saw the footprints. They weren't normal. The toes were too long, almost like fingers, and they sank deeper into the earth than any human could. They led into the darkest part of the forest, and every instinct told me to turn back. But hunger silenced my fear. I followed them anyway. My name is Ajani, and I've been a hunter since I was strong enough to hold a bow. My father taught me the ways of the forest, how to track game, how to listen for danger, and how to respect the spirits of the land. He used to say, the forest sees everything. If you're lucky, it'll leave you alone. That day, I wasn't lucky. The village had been starving for weeks. No antelope, no bush pig, not even a guinea fowl. The elders whispered that the spirits were angry, but I didn't believe in such things. Spirits or not, we needed food. So, I took my bow, my knife, and my dog, Tono, and headed into the forest. Before leaving, I spoke with Oma, my wife. She looked at me with worry etched into her face. Ajani, be careful, she said, her voice trembling. The elders say the spirits are restless. The forest is dangerous now. I'll be fine, I assured her, though I didn't truly believe it. We need food, Oma. I'll come back before sunset. She placed a hand on my arm, her touch warm despite the chill in the air. Promise me you won't go too deep. I nodded, kissed her forehead, and left. Her worried gaze followed me until the trees swallowed me whole. The morning was quiet, too quiet. Even the birds seemed afraid to sing. I found no tracks, no droppings, nothing. Tono's ears twitched at every sound, but he stayed close. Then, I saw the footprints. They led deeper into the forest, into a place my father had always warned me about, the Shadow Grove. Never go there, he'd said. Not even if the whole village is starving. That place belongs to them. But hunger makes a man bold. I followed the tracks. The air grew heavy as I ventured further. The trees stood so close together that the sunlight barely reached the ground. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. The silence pressed against my ears, and even Tono began to lag behind, his tail low. Then I heard the whispers. At first, they were faint, like wind through leaves. But soon, they grew louder, words I couldn't understand swirling around me. Tono growled low in his throat. I gripped my bow tighter and kept walking. The footprints were fresh now, the edges sharp in the damp soil. Whatever made them was close. I stepped into a clearing, and that's when I saw it. It was human-shaped, but only barely. Its skin was pale and stretched tight over its bones. Its arms hung too long, and its head tilted unnaturally, as if listening to something only it could hear. Bright, flickering lights surrounded it, like fireflies trapped in its skin, pulsing faintly with every movement. In its hand, it clutched something dark and writhing. A bird. A bundle of roots. I couldn't tell. It hadn't seen me yet. I raised my bow, my hands trembling. Tono backed, breaking the silence. The creature's head snapped toward me, and its eyes, if they were eyes, were empty pits. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then it screamed. The sound was like nothing I'd ever heard, high and piercing, filled with rage and something ancient. My legs moved before my mind could. I turned and ran, Tono close behind. The forest seemed to come alive. Trees twisted and stretched, their branches clawing at me. The whispers turned into shouts, accusing and angry. I didn't look back. My lungs burned, and my legs felt like lead, but I ran until I burst out of the forest and into the fields near the village. Only then did I collapse, gasping for air. Tono lay beside me, trembling. The forest was silent again, but I could still feel its gaze. When I told the elders, they nodded gravely. "The spirits warned you," one said. "You are lucky to be alive." That night, the village gathered around the fire as the elders told stories of the Shadow Grove. One spoke of Adu, a hunter from long ago. "He was the best among us," the elder began. "Bold, fearless, but arrogant. Adu thought no spirit could touch him. One day, he ventured into the Shadow Grove, ignoring the warnings. He returned, but he was not the same." "What happened to him?" a child asked, his voice barely a whisper. The elder's face darkened. He spoke in riddles, his eyes hollow and distant. The forest had taken something from him. He grew weaker each day until one night, he vanished. Some say he returned to the forest. Others say the spirits claimed him. The fire crackled, but no one spoke. Even the children, usually restless during these tales, sat still, their faces pale. When I returned home, Oma was waiting. Her arms wrapped around me the moment I stepped inside. "I was so afraid," she whispered. "What did you see?" I hesitated, unsure of how to describe it. "The forest isn't just trees and animals," I finally said. "There's something alive in there. Something old." Her grip tightened. "Promise me you won't go back." "I promise," I said, though I wasn't sure if the promise was for her sake or mine. A week later, Kwame, a fellow hunter, approached me. "You let some shadows scare you," he said with a grin. "Show me this place. We'll bring back enough game for the whole village." I hesitated, but Kwame's confidence was infectious. Perhaps I'd imagined it all. We set out the next morning. Kwame was cheerful, singing and joking as we walked. Even Tono seemed more at ease. But as we approached the Shadow Grove, the air grew heavy again. The forest silence swallowed Kwame's laughter. We found the footprints quickly. They were just as I remembered. Kwame's bravado faltered, but he pressed on. "Let's keep going," he said, though his voice was quieter now. The whispers began, louder this time. I heard my name, and Kwame's too. He stopped and looked at me. "Do you hear that?" I nodded. "We should leave." "Not yet," he said. "We've come this far." In the clearing, the creature was there. But this time, there were more. 3, maybe 4, their hollow eyes fixed on us. Their pale skin glowed faintly, illuminated from within by an eerie, shifting light. It wasn't warm like fire, it was cold, like moonlight captured and distorted. The light seemed alive, pulsing in rhythm with the whispers that surrounded us. Kwame raised his spear, his hands shaking. "We need to go," I whispered. One of the creatures stepped forward, its long arms reaching out. Kwame shouted and threw his spear. It missed. The creature screamed, and the others joined in, their voices blending into a terrible, unearthly wail. I grabbed Kwame's arm. run. The forest fought us as we fled. Vines snatched at our legs, and branches clawed at our faces. The whispers were deafening, turning into shouts of anger. I didn't let go of Kwame, even when he stumbled. We burst out of the forest together, collapsing into the fields. The elders were waiting. They had known we would return, though they hadn't been sure if we'd survive. Kwame didn't speak for days. When he finally did, he said only, "The spirits are real." That night, Oma held me close as I recounted everything. "The forest isn't just alive," I said. "It remembers." She nodded, her face pale but determined. "Then we must never forget to respect it." I've learned to respect the forest since then. It's not just a place of trees and animals. It's alive, and it remembers. The elders say the spirits protect it and punish those who disrespect it. Perhaps they're right. Now, when I teach young hunters, I tell them what my father told me: the forest sees everything. If you're lucky, it'll leave you alone. And I add something of my own: if it doesn't, run. The moral of the story: respect the land and its mysteries. Some things are beyond our understanding, and it's better that way.